Well, let me start by saying that we have an ancient Indian text, Vishnu Dhrutam, that states, and I paraphrase, before you start to build, you must understand craft. If you do craft, you need to know art. So you must follow rhythm, and therefore you need to learn to dance. And further, you should understand music, and thus it goes on. We are here to talk about the sector of sectors that runs transversely across our lives, our economies, and our countries. Mahatma Gandhi understood this well. His powerful call of Swadeshi and Swaraj to his fellow Indians not only created a radical shift that led to the crumbling of imperialism in India, the call was equally a beacon to the spinners and weavers, the makers by hand, spread across India. His vision for a self-reliant, free India was closely linked to its resurgent cultural roots, and it laid the foundation stone. In parallel, the visionary Nobel Prize winner Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore initiated a search into the indigenous roots of culture, setting the bedrock, inspiring others to follow. With a population of 1.2 billion, of which 65% is below the age of 35 and 70% live in rural India, the numbers joining the workforce each year is 12 million. The government is committed to add 200 million jobs by 2020. The increase, it is recognized, will not all come from manufacturing or service sector. With the 5 millennia cultural heritage, we need to push for our expressions of traditional culture, performing arts, crafts, oral knowledge, and other cultural resources to be recognized as an untapped role to play in sustainable development. With 4,365 ethnic communities, over 1,000 crafts, and more than 70,000 recognized national and state level sites, traditional cultural expressions, trials, rituals, customs, music, and the list goes on. It's time for us to be counted. I have been asked here to talk about one of the pillars of intangible cultural heritage, the traditional crafts. Over the 7 decades since India's independence, investment in honoring, safeguarding, and promoting traditional crafts has come from across the spectrum, recognized by the government and separate ministries, civil societies, private sector, UN bodies, multilateral agencies, and others. We have a great deal to show for this output. The great pull that this tradition has in tourism, the numbers of arrivals increasing by an average of 9% per year, the increase in exports of products of traditional handicrafts by 25%, and handloom export by 32% in the last financial year, and this too in spite of global recession, with 95% of the world's handlooms sourced from India. Yet we are far to go. This is a vast and diverse country, and we need to do more. The numbers employed in the making of traditional handicrafts are estimated to be between 60 to 100 million. An overwhelming majority of those who work in the sector belong to the weaker, more vulnerable sections of societies. 50% are women, and 80% of the total live and work across the 6 lakh villages in India. All this is clearly recognized by government. The range of skills that encompass this sector include the creation of classical statues that follow the iconographic and iconometry of auspicious orthodox practice, to the making of the humble clay pot, from a bamboo string instrument to the dhokla lost wax metal casting of the tribals, the weaving of raw silk to the embroidery of the Toda tribals. The variety is enormous, and craftspeople work with materials as diverse as metal, wood, clay, paper, fiber, nut, leather, and much more, with enormous individual variations within each group of specializations, a whole host of processes, contexts, and variations. I work at the Craft Revival Trust, and we have the largest encyclopedia on traditional craftsmanship in South Asia that is free for anyone to access. Information on over 1,000 crafts and their practitioners is available, and yet it is a work in process. skills and techniques, craft, ritual and folklore are handed down orally within and across generations, taught through oral knowledge transmission systems that do not form part of mainstream educational systems prevalent today. Specialized crafts and handlooms are hereditary specialities passed on from generation to generation. The Musaris of Kerala, who cast the bell-metal charadu cooking vessels in diameters of up to 8 feet. The yarn-resist saris woven by members of the Saudi family, characterized by mathematical precision in the multiple tile dyeing and weaving. The Sthapatis who cast the bronze idols are only some such examples. This immense number of self-employed, self-organized, skilled craftspeople are not only the bearers of India's traditional knowledge, the source of creativity and the keepers of national identity, but equally provide sustainable livelihoods linked to self-fulfillment and development in India. There have been many success stories. Government initiatives place great importance on these creative and cultural enterprises in the decades after independence. This was a challenging task, for there was no previous experience on which to build the work. It meant the creation of a new economic order which would nurture and support the existing structure and skills. The task of formulating policy, the setting up of institutions, and the designing of a framework for traditional craftsmanship to flourish and develop was a vast undertaking faced. It was a holistic view that laid the foundation, where crafts were viewed not in isolation, but as part of the fabric of development, involving all the creative expressions of the people, not just the product, but the process, linked to the other 4 pillars of intangible cultural heritage. Government efforts were supplemented by civil society organizations. I have many benefits that have come out of it, but I know that we are running very short of time, and I would like to touch on them where we perhaps have time to discuss it later. But there is one thing I want to add, and that is that craftspeople across the country responded to this beat of development and opportunity, the practitioners and the transmitters, who should be at the heart of whatever it is that we do. We must keep people first. Their response echoed across the country, from the first women craftspeople to step out of the confines of their home, whether it was the embroiderers from small tribal villages, pastoralist communities, or tribals. Others followed. Artists, weavers took the step. Their standing up to be counted, having a multiplier effect on others in their community. Their personal growth linked to social change and economic progress. These craftsmen and women seized the opportunity to enter the economic sphere, asserted their rights, and developed a voice within the social and contractual sphere of their lives. In interviews, their reactions covered a range of affirmative responses, engagements and interactions, creating social and economic ripple effects in their communities. Let me cut it further and further, but may I just end by saying that there is one thing which has started a bit late, but it has, and that is the area of educational reform and change, because the first institution for traditional artisans was set up only recently in 2005, and a Mithila craftsperson expressed eloquently, "We may have become wage earners, but we are still walking on someone else's feet. Because we lack the tools of education and language, we are still dependent." It is a cry that many others, skilled holders and practitioners have echoed. Hopefully it will be a module for many other similar local educational institutions in craft pockets all over the country. While much has been achieved, we need more. We need to achieve a higher watermark for empowerment, inclusion, economic and social equity, and sustainable development. This is, after all, an area in India which is the second largest employer after agriculture. For both as an emerging economy and as a civilization, our future depends on how we tackle this immense resource in the years to come. And ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to your questions. Thank you.